A bit more. Hi.
Hi. You all
Hi.
right?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Back in the same setting.
Yeah. Well, that makes a change.
No change. It's always just like we need to get used to this. I need to
This
be.
is going to be the new one. This is your office. Do you
No,
not go
I am going to go back at the. I am going back at the office, but it's just been a bit chaotic recently with the holiday. Well, it's going to link into this with
Yeah.
the holidays and things. I've had quite a few holidays. I've been just come back from Greece, from Athens with my mum. We've been to Flamingo Land with the kids. Been to St. Lucia. Like it's been. I don't know why I do this to myself. I say I'm going to do it. I say I'm going to stop doing it every year, and I continue to do it. Keo goes mad, but I like to sort of make sure we're doing something every month. Don't know what it is or what it might be, but then obviously in between that, life then gives you other things that you need to do. So like the Flamingo Land thing, that was smack bang in the middle of St. Lucia in Athens, but it means that like we got back off holiday 4 days later, we're going there, then 4 days. It's just like I'm literally living out of a case. So that's what we're going to talk about today, aren't we? Is about holiday life.
Yes, it's how you take holidays and balance your work. Because one thing, and that's what I was saying this to you off air before we did this episode, was I've worked with you for a number of years now, and you go on some extravagant holidays. You're always off somewhere doing something cool. But your business continues not just to kind of survive, but also grow while you're away. So much so that like last year, was it last year or this year? Last year, when you went away for ages.
Last year, so it was 2022.
So last year you went away for months and months on it, like, because it was, you went to like all over Florida, you went to
it worked
Australia.
out that in 2022, if we went from like the December till the December, I think I worked 5 or 6 months. I think.
Wow.
Might even be less. No. Yeah, about 6 months I worked in total. But obviously, like when my grandma was diagnosed terminal, I'd like less than a year to live in the December. And I just, she put things in perspective and you think, I'm never going to get this opportunity again. And if I was working for someone else, I wouldn't have the opportunity to say, no, I'm not working and I'm going to go on holiday. So I just thought, worst case scenario, I'm going to lose money. I'm not going to grow like I want to grow, but I'm never going to get this time back with my grandma again. So, we went to Australia, we went to Berlin. We already had, when I was saying there, we'd already had Florida booked in for a year.
Yeah.
And then obviously when she started to get really bad, I was taking time off and not going in the office and just being with her. So like, it's sort of like, that's the bonus, isn't it, of running your own business or being self-employed, is that you pretty much, you can decide, yeah, it might not be ideal and it might not be financially the best thing, but at the end of the day, you've still got the option. Whereas 9 times out of 10 people don't have the option to be able to say, I'm not working. And because of the job that I do and the way I do it, I can pretty much work from anywhere in the world. So because when we booked America, when we'd booked Florida and my grandma hadn't been like diagnosed, my full intention was to have 3 weeks off with no work and just completely and utterly like zone out and just be with the kids and Keo. But then because I took it to Australia and we were there for 4 weeks, I was like, I can't afford to not work for 7 weeks in the space of 3 months. Like I can't.
Yeah.
So what me and Keo agreed was that on a morning, 3 days of the week, between like 9:30 and 12, I would sit like where the kids were playing in the pool with Keo. I'd sit in the like canteen part in the hotel and do some work. Not ideal, and yeah, I would rather have not had to do it. But there's ways and means of doing it, is what I'm saying. You can make sure that you're getting the balance. It's just being realistic about what you want to achieve. And I'm proud of what we've done, because like I got my tax completed the other day, like from my accountant, like my overview of the year, and the business has grown by 50%. So considering I wasn't at work for 50% of the year, my business as a profitable business and as a where you want it to keep going forward, it's grown by 50%, which is amazing considering I wasn't at work for 50% of the year.
Yeah.
So imagine I'd been there for the full year, which to me says, one, I did the right thing. and two, that I made sure that I put what was right first, not the other way around.
And do you find, because with that, do you find that when you go on holiday, because someone who is someone who people, I'm self-employed, people going to who lots of people who are watching this will be self-employed. Do you find it hard to switch off when you're on holiday because it's all on you?
I was actually saying this to my friend who's employed. I said, you know, the only downside that really, like, there's loads of little bugbears of being self-employed, but the main one where I literally am like, oh, it's that you don't ever, like, you know, the run up to holiday when you're employed. Like when I worked at Howdens and I was going on holiday, I'd be like, 4 more days, 3 more days, 2 more days, like out of office clothes on. And then on your last day, you're like, right, I'm off, enjoy. I'm pissing off, and like you just completely ta-ra, and switch off completely. I literally am when I'm going away, I'm the opposite. I'm literally like, oh my God, I'm dreading it. I can't believe it. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. I've got everything's not done. Like I feel very overwhelmed. And my friend was like, just chill out. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm like, do you know what? Nothing. I know nothing. But naturally, my brain just goes into this like overdrive of like, fuck, like I'm not going to be here to control it. I'm not there. Yeah. So it's like, I do switch off, but I'd probably say it's like day 2 or 3. And then I start to switch off completely. And then obviously by like, say we went away for a week, on day 7, I'm prepping myself ready to go back to work again. So I say, okay, well, that's why I need so many holidays, because technically I'm still at work for 50% of it. It takes me about 4 days to wind myself back down. And then it's the chaos of routine. I think, like when I was saying about like on last week's episode about making sure that you're organised and that, you know, like your work head is on and you're in a zone of making sure you're grafting and you're in that frame of mind. It is difficult to do that when you're having holidays every other month because you're sort of constantly out the swing of it. But you know, and I know, like one of the things that I said at the beginning of this year was that I'm going to make sure that I actually enjoy the fact I've grafted the way I have. And like to say that the business is still grown, even when I'm doing that, says to me that I'm doing the right thing. Like, you know, it's not perfect and all sunshine and butterflies all the time. It's stressful. It's hard work. It can be really difficult trying to keep your sort of mindset in the right focus because you're basically constantly going from, I'm hard at graft, I'm running the world, to chill out and stop thinking. And like, doing this all the time. One thing that did work though, and it was Emmy who told me to do this, and she, as usual, she was right. When I go away normally, like last year, I took I either listen to audios or I take like a book that I've been wanting to read. And normally I'm wanting to read something that I feel like is going to benefit me or my business, because everything I do is basically for the business. And it was Happy Sexy Millionaire by Stephen Bartlett. Brilliant book, really good. And when I was going this time, Emmy was like, take a book that means nothing to do with business, literally a book that is just going to get your mind into a position where you're not thinking about anything else. It's not relevant. And I got this Colleen Hoover book called Verity, very good book, by the way, about this man and woman who fell in love and all that. And it was absolute shite and no relevance whatsoever to life.
Yeah, it's great.
But I couldn't put it down. And I loved it. Like I said to Kay, oh my God, I've proper missed
reading, the
book. But then I took 3 because the way I am wired is I don't want 3. And then when I finished this book, I rang my mum and I was like, oh my God, that book was amazing. It's the first book in about 4 years I've read, and like, you know, it's not been to do with business. And she's like, oh, what's your next book? I said, I had this other book, Couplet Number 9 it's called. I was like, I've got this next book to read. I went, but I'm not ready to read it. She went, what do you mean? I went, like, I feel like I need to like have a breakup with the book I've just had. You know, like,
I'm like that.
Just dive straight into another book, and she started laughing. She went, oh my God, I'm just like that. She'd like, I need to grieve for the book. I was like, yeah, like,
there's nothing sad. There's nothing more sad. It's a bit like, I was like that because I like fiction, and like, it's devastating when you finish a book. Like,
but it's really good, and you're like,
it's really good. But and it is, I love that. That's like, I was like, yeah, I'm like that with like Hunger Games. And I was like younger, I read that book and I was like, I remember being like, oh God, like at the end of it, to the point where I go back and you feel like you've lost someone. It's like someone's died.
I was grieving for it. So like for the last 3 days of my holiday, I had these 2 books and Kia was like, "You're going to read your book?" I was like, "No, I'm still getting over Verity. Like, I'm still there." And he was like,
one thing I'd tell you on that, which is really interesting, because I do a similar thing, and I only very similar to you. Like, I don't switch off, and actually it causes some problems because I just, if I'm not working with a client, I'll listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook, and it's always got to be work, marketing, psychology, something. And it was similar. Someone said, because you make fun, I'm a big Star Wars fan. And I was like, someone was like, my sister is one that said it. She said, "Have you ever listened to a Star Wars book?" Because I can't, because I'm dyslexic, I don't read. I was like, "Listen, I do read, but I don't." And she was like, "Have you ever listened to a Star Wars book?" I was like, "No." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." I was like, "What a waste of time." I said, they're like 15 hours long when you go on. They're so long. I'm not doing that. And literally last summer, I was like, she said, "Just get one." So I got one, and I went walking the dog. And I have not walked the dog as much because it was at the end of the day, I'd finish work at 6, and then I would go and walk the dog for an hour, and I'd listen to the book.
Yeah,
and it's like such an incredible detachment. So that by the time I came back into the house, I was like not thinking about work.
Yeah, like you basically like, it's like sort of, I know there's a posh way to say it, but it's basically like taking your work head, dumping it out, and then not like putting it back on until the next day. So it sort of like bridges that gap. And that
it really does.
Actually, I do that because that's what happens is, well, I know I do it. Like, I either work from home, so I'm actually constantly working and at home. So there's no separation. Or if I'm on the way home, like even say I go to the office and I'm there 9:30 till 8 or 9:30 till 7:30. So I've done bloody 10, 11-hour days.
Yeah.
Even on the way home, I'm still ringing clients in the car, or I'm ringing Millie, or I'm doing something. So I'm still not detaching myself from the fact that I've finished work. Like, there's no end apart from when I go on holiday. So that's actually quite a good tip that I might try doing.
It really helps.
Like read for 10 minutes before
there's
I leave.
Loads of weird things that I'm starting to see more and more, which I would always see as time wasted things. That and you could be the same as me. I've always thought that's a waste of time, or like I've done it, but I'm not going to. So one of them was that. The other one, which has helped me in the last couple of weeks with like bringing down blood pressure, as I do, because I had high blood pressure, was so like I'm playing a video game. I haven't played video games in ages, like years. I've got one, but I never play it. But what it is, and this is so ridiculous, if I play video game in the evening, so like if my wife's not around, if she's putting our son to bed or whatever, I'll play a video game for about an hour, maybe 30 minutes, because I was finding if I put TV on, I pick up my phone and I start working again, because the TV has that kind of, whereas when I play a video game, it sounded ridiculous, but
use your hands.
I physically, my hands are on a controller and I have to focus on what's happening on the screen in order for me to know what I'm doing. So it weirdly was like, and the games are crap. Like I'm playing like old games I played when I was Sonic the Hedgehog, things like when I was a kid, but I was like, oh my gosh, like it's having something to do with your hands and focus. Because of what I'll do, and I'm sure you'll be the same, is I'm like, oh, I wonder actually, what's that thing do? Or how does that work? Or and I'll sit and watch TV, but I'm not watching TV. I'm playing on my iPad, like working still, it's weird.
Like that. I think most people who run their own businesses like that, where they feel like every minute matters, when really lots of minutes are not meant to matter. And that's when you can like switch your brain off and go into downtime and revamp for the next day. Whereas that's what I try and do. I suppose that's why I have the holidays, and that's why I try and do the break up because what I found was that I was literally like 18 months ago, my entire, like I've definitely earned it. I'm not going to take that away from myself. I've grafted like an absolute dog for 3 years. And it got to a point where I was like, physically felt like I was going to have a breakdown because I got the opposite. I got obsessed with it, totally couldn't detach ever. And I remember saying to you, this year, I need to make sure that I've done it for about 18 months now. Like I need to make sure that I am constantly getting a separation from the business, constantly. I've got advisors now, I've got staff, I can leave, I've got an amazing team where I know that if they need me, they'll tell me. I trust that completely. So that's really good. And you need that. Like, obviously I couldn't run my business without my team, and they're a major like support, and I'm very, very lucky to have that. So I've got the freedom, but like that separation between me and the business is 100% needed, because otherwise I'd just go into a spiraled, chaotic, non-stop workaholic mode, and it's just not good for anyone. So yeah, parting words for this one will be to like always sort of listen to your own head and body, because that matters just as much. If you aren't making sure that you're serving and refueling yourself, you're the one that's got to get up and do it the next day, every single day. So you've got to make sure you're giving yourself that time to break away, you know, relax, rebuild, and go again, so you can be just as good as the month before. So make sure you put yourself first.
I love it.